so much for joining us today. Welcome to another episode of SheBoss. I am Megan with Flourish. And just before we get started, I want to let you know a little bit about SheBoss. It is a video series where we have the opportunity to chat with some fabulous women who are doing amazing things within their community and are their mamas, they're working moms, they're entrepreneurs, they're all of these things. And so we are so blessed to be able to get a chance to talk with these ladies. And typical Flourish style, we're doing it over a cocktail. So please join us and have a cocktail and just hang out with us for a little bit. And I have the absolute honor today of getting a chance to chat with Jenny Ross, who is actually based in Orlando. She's not in Huntsville like a lot of our fabulous women are, but she's based in Orlando. And I had to chat with her because beyond being a very successful woman, extremely creative, super fit, and stays on top of it, which it makes me jealous watching her on social media. She has an amazing business that she is in with her family, and she makes the most beautiful things that we are going to put in our office very soon. So if you're in Huntsville, you can come by and see it. But on top of that, I used to babysit her when she was little itty bitty because she is my dear cousin and I love her so much. So I wanted her to come on and kind of talk about her journey and share with you guys about what she's up to. That way you can learn more about her and and we'll just kind of hang out. So Jenny, I'll let you take it away. Tell us about yourself and what you're doing and all the good stuff.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor. When you asked me, I was like, me? Are you sure? But it just means so much. You know, you've always been somebody I've looked up to. So for you to come to me for this, it meant a lot. So my name is Jenny. I am the CEO and part owner. I say part owner because I'm actually in business with my brother and my dad, which has been this like crazy, awesome thing that I never thought we would do. And now that we're doing it, we wish we would have done it sooner. We make wooden items. Mainly we focus on home decor, party decor. We do cake toppers and table numbers and things like that. And yeah, it's just kind of been a roller coaster. We got started. So my dad moved to Orlando when I had my first child. And my parents, of course, were like immediately, as soon as Hannah was born, they're on their way. So once he got here, he was retired. And if you know my dad, which of course you do, he can't sit still. So he needed something. He needed to do something, and he thought about going back to work, and he wasn't sure. And I wanted to do something creative, so we decided to do a little business together. And it didn't go super well. It was definitely more like a hobby. We made wooden signs with vinyl on them, and it ended up being a lot more work than it was worth. But it was fun to do it together and figure out how to be a business and do all that together. And then meanwhile, my brother and his wife, they started their own business, and their business totally exploded. My brother is just, he's got the business side of things down. He is a total numbers guy, and he just knows how to do it. So he's like, all right, you guys, you need to do this. You need to do X, Y, Z. You need to go buy a laser machine. We're like, no, we're not going to invest in that. We're not going to do that.
Sounds really expensive.
It is expensive. And when we saw the number, we laughed at him. We're like, no. Like, for him to buy it, it made sense because their business was already doing well. So it was just an investment in their current business. We just blindly bought this thing. And he's like, I promise you, you will see a turn in investment. We're doing this. Let's do it together. We'll all do it together. I'll handle the numbers. Jen handles the creativity, and Dad will be like the man work. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a try. And what started out as just a hobby and, like I said, something fun for us to do, turned into this business. And, you know, the major part of it that I've seen, like the major turn has been, I mean, I was talking to you before about it. I'm an educator. I've taught third grade I taught first grade first, but I'm an elementary school teacher for 9 years. And when I had Hannah first, I wanted to stay home desperately with every ounce of my being. Some people thought I was crazy, and I kicked and screamed going back to work, and everyone's like, oh, you'll get used to it. I never got used to it. I was never the person that got used to it. I love my job. I love teaching kids. It's definitely like built in my soul. But there was something about teaching other kids and giving them 100% of my energy, because you cannot give half of your energy to teaching. Teaching is all or nothing, and it takes every ounce of everything. So, you know, I felt like I was constantly giving everything to my students, and then I would go home and only have 50% left for Hannah, and nothing left for my husband, and 0 left for myself, you know? So I struggled with that, and I struggled with it a lot. And I never thought that doing the business with them would ever turn into something that would allow me to stay home. So when this small hobby started blowing up and we started seeing like an income, we're like, holy crap, I can do this. Like I can stay home. I think I can. Let me just try. Let me just do it. And then I took the leap last year. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to just go for it. We're not going to think about it. We're not going to overthink it, because I feel like that was our issue with Hannah. I had my second kid, Hadley, and Hadley will be, she was just 2 days ago. And going back after having her was even harder than after having Hannah, because I feel like how fast time goes by. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, we started Birch and Belle, went into it. And when I decided to stay home, I said, I'm not going to sit there and crunch the numbers, because if we do that, then I'm never going to stay home. So we're just going to go at it on a whim. And it's been a whirlwind. This is my first year home, and we've done so well that I actually just decided to take next year off too. So it's been really good. It's like, I've learned so much, I feel like when in the beginning, when I was going at it like it was a hobby, I wasn't putting my heart and soul in it because I didn't really need to. It was just extra money. But knowing that this is my sole income, it's really changed everything. And now I'm 100% dedicated in the business, and I'm like, let's do it. What can we do? What are we doing with this? And
that is
it's awesome. It's been really cool.
So I have several questions for you, because you kind of hit on a variety of different things. And I think that, when you find something that you love that can kind of be yours, that you create and you see it grow, there's a different kind of fire that comes along with that.
Yes.
There really, really is. And it's that kind of fire that, you don't mind getting up earlier in the morning or working after you put your kids to bed, because you have something inside of you that it's like that intuition that you just know that you have to do it, which I think comes honestly with like a motherly intuition as well.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, especially when you look at, the pros and cons and, the opportunity cost of not spending that time with your kids. I mean, Hannah, she's like, Hannah and Hadley are like the models for Birch and Belle. And they're the cutest things. The cutest things. Like you couldn't have picked a cuter model to be able to promote your product. I think we need one of those. I need to figure out how to do that for Flourish.
I'll send them over.
No, but when you take a look at what is lost in time, and especially when you really take a look back and, it seems like yesterday I was walking my daughter to kindergarten, and she's going to be trying to get her permit now as soon as COVID-19 lets her get out of the house. And it goes like that. It really, really does. So I love the fact that you recognize that, and you didn't, let me just give it another 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
That's easy to do. That's the easy route, to sit there and overthink it. And definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such an inspiration to be able to see people who do that and kind of latch on to, this is what I know is right. And this is something that's important to me, because I think so often we get caught up where, and we've talked about this before on this series, where you can have dreams, but they will do you no good if you don't put any effort behind them. Yeah. And like you did, even if it just starts off as a passion project, you have to start somewhere, whether it's an hour a day or 2 hours a day or 5 hours a week, but you've got to commit and at least give it a chance to thrive, right?
It's true. That's true.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And like you said, just starting from somewhere, taking your foot and moving it forward, that's all it takes. It's not easy. I mean, the thing is, when I wanted to stay home with Hannah, I was intimidated because nobody really did that. Where out of my group of friends, at least, every teacher has a side hustle. That's the thing. It's just, I don't know, we all have one, but nobody stays home with their side hustle because everyone's intimidated. But if we're being honest, a teacher salary in Florida is not much to really replace. One of my friends said that once, and I was like, that's a really good point. I didn't really think about it that way. I mean, I love job security, that part of it. That part is intimidating on its own, losing that job security. But if you don't do it now, then you're never going to do it, because, Hadley's too. Every year, I feel like, is a year that just slips by. And if you're not there and you grasp it, then it's gone. So,
so I want you to talk a little bit about kind of two things. So one, what we talk to a lot of women about, and I'm sure you were there, I was there not that long ago, where the sheer thought of quote unquote starting a business makes you want to vomit, because you think that you have to have a lot of capital in the bank. You've got to have a full business plan figured out. You've got to have all these things kind of lined up and figured out. And I think you've really got to be able to let go of the perfection or the image of perfection that you think you need to have before you start. So So number one, I want to hear about how you actually took that step, what resources you used, and how you kind of went down that path. And then secondly, I want to talk about your thrive for innovation and creativity, because you guys are totally killing it on social media. I mean, you're a home-based business, right? So anybody out there who doesn't, you don't have a brick and mortar, if you want to, jump up on Etsy or Instagram, or whatever it might be. But you guys, every time I turn around, there's something new and creative that comes out of what you do. So I want to hear about where you get the creative inspiration for some of the projects that you work on.
That one, honestly, it comes from a lot of the customers. People will ask for ideas. They'll say, can you make something like this? And I'll say, oh, we haven't made anything like that before, but let me try it. And then it sparks ideas for other things. And it's like a snowball effect. I could sit at my computer for hours and hours. It's like you said, when you have a passion for something, it doesn't feel like work. So I'll sit down, I'll start designing something, and then something else will come to mind, then something else will come to mind. I feel like with this laser machine, like the options are honestly endless. And we haven't even touched on half of the things that it can do, so, and another part of it, I'm trying every single day, I'm trying to build up my social media. So I'm trying to be on Instagram every day. I'm trying to be on Pinterest every day, which is not easy. And I'm seeing other ideas and taking ideas. I don't steal ideas, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people do out there. And I try really hard not to do that. But, coming up with brand new ideas isn't always possible, but I feel like coming up with inspiration from other people and having customers give me feedback, and friends, and my mom, oh my gosh, bless her heart, but she has a new idea every single time that I talk to her, and I'm like, okay, Mom. But I try to listen to it, because something like, okay, so when I first started the business, I was only making things that I personally would buy. I couldn't even see outside of that. And then, like I said, someone like my mom would come at me with an idea. And even though it's something I wouldn't have in my house or I wouldn't buy personally, doesn't mean that other people aren't going to buy it. So I don't know, a lot of the products, it seems like I'll list something and I'll be like, oh, this is going to be a winner. Everyone's going to buy this. And then crickets, nobody buys it. And then I'll list something that I'm like, whatever, fine, I'll listen to someone's idea and and then all of a sudden it's going like crazy. I'm like, I don't know how it works. I don't know the algorithm. I think what people need to do when they first start their business is just put out as much stuff as they can. Take every idea they have out of their head and just throw it out there, because you have nothing to lose. I mean, you really don't. So
let me ask you a question on that, and kind of make a point on something that I think I feel really passionate about. And so we were just doing a webinar this afternoon on like Facebook deep dive. So now that kind of business has gone virtual, like where should you be? Where should you apply your efforts? What kind of strategy should you roll out? And the number one common theme that resonates and is so important across everything that we do from a digital standpoint is your customer. You've got to know your customer. You've got to be able to listen to them. And, we all know what happens when you make assumptions, and you can't just create something that you think is beautiful and just expect people to come. So I love the fact that you are totally engaging with your end audience. And I think by doing that, you start to really organically broaden and grow your customer base, when maybe initially you went into it with the thought of just going to do ornaments, or I'm just going to do this, or I'm just going to do that. And instead you listen. So do you actively solicit feedback from your customers in that way? How do you do that?
Well, okay, so we sell mainly on Etsy. That's our platform. And we can't do anything when it comes to that stuff. We can't ask people for reviews or advice or anything. They have strict rules about that. But they're pretty big on emailing you right after you get your item and asking you for a review. So even though you can't go after it yourself, they're actually really helpful, and they go after the review. And people, I think Etsy tends to be more of a creative marketplace, because we also sell on Amazon, and I get hardly any reviews or feedback on Amazon. But Etsy, it's a different kind of person who shops on Etsy, and Etsy sellers are just awesome. I mean, Etsy buyers, sellers too. Buyers are awesome, because I feel like they don't just give you a 5-star review. They give you a full description of a paragraph of why this product was awesome and what they liked about it. And they're really great. And people will also say, I have a lot of people, so some of our products that we sell are craft products. So other makers are buying from me and then turning it into their own product. And they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I love the way the state of Michigan looked, but is it okay if you make it a little thicker next time? And then I'm like, oh, that's a really good point. I probably should make it thicker so it's not breaking. And so I don't know, instead of leaving me a bad review, because they're also a seller, they'll comment and contact me themselves. So I feel like that's where a lot of the ideas come from too, because it's like, and I'm part of a Facebook group that has Etsy sellers on there too, where everyone's like bouncing back ideas. So, reaching out, getting out of your comfort zone too, because if you just open this business and then just hide in a hole, you're never going to succeed. You need to ask people for help. You need to read the blogs, do your research, and see why they're buying it, what they're liking about it, who your customers are. That's like you were saying before. If you don't know who your customers are, you're never going to sell anything, because you need to know who they are, what they're out there looking for. And if I'm being honest, I don't think that we really figured that out until recently, until a couple months ago. We were struggling. People would ask me, what do you sell? And I'm like, a bunch of different things, And instead of that, now I'm saying, oh, well, I know exactly what I sell most of. I sell X, Y, Z. This is what I sell, and this is why I sell it. So figuring that out first that's been a big life changer for us, because I feel like that made a big turn in the business.
That is awesome. I think that's such a great point, especially for women, because they often feel, and again, we've come across this a lot, and I've been there myself. I'm sure you have too, where initially it's like you almost feel like you have to do it all yourself, and you have to figure it all out. And to make yourself vulnerable and put yourself out there and ask questions of, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And find these people in the same space who are successful. And we have to get away from this cutthroat competitive space where like, hey, we don't support each other. Instead, we're competing.
Yes.
There is way more business to go around. And if really, and everybody has their own niche. And I know with, Chris's wife, Tracy, maybe you guys would even be considered competitive in some aspect, but there's so many ways that you can be able to complement each other and do some joint promotion and joint campaigns around seasonal items and all that kind of stuff. So
and we have the way that we worked that out so that there wasn't like conflict, because, with Chris being part of both businesses, is Chris and Tracy are allowed to sell these items and we are allowed to sell these items, and we completely split it apart. I don't sell door hangers and ornaments, and they do not sell cake toppers and baby names. There's just so that there's no confusion. We can sell anything we want to our friends, but when customers reach out, we send each other, in the right direction. And I love what you said before about there's enough success to go around for everybody, because I think that's another big thing that people get into. They start seeing everybody as competition around them, when no, they can be successful and you can be successful and she can be successful, and you can all encourage each other.
Right. Absolutely. I know a lot of people are surprised to know that, here in Huntsville, that one of my, what some people would say would be deemed as a big competitor for us. And again, we just turned 2 years old last month, but a competitor for us is actually a mentor of mine, and someone who I go have lunch with and cocktails with, who I look up to. And it's like, there is so much business to go around. And having that kind of mentality, I think just comes full circle in all sense of the word. Not that you go into everything with an opportunity in mind, but it's just when you help other people and reach out and collaborate, there's so much more positivity that follows those businesses, as opposed to being like, there's not enough room for everybody. And to your customers see that too. Your customers see that you are sort of elevating things as a whole, as opposed to just honing in on yourself or, making profit, whatever it might be. So talk a little bit about the journey then to get into business that you guys took, as far as like starting the business and what paths you took and what resources you used.
I think we haven't grown a whole lot since the beginning when it comes to us starting the business, because Etsy does a lot for you. So we decided, like I said, we did that. My dad and I did that original business, and we were on Etsy also. And we didn't really understand how it worked, and our business didn't do very well. But once we had Chris in there, and Chris my brother did a lot of the research on how to figure out the tags and the titles, and there really is an algorithm with Etsy that you have to figure out. You have to say the right words. You have to tag it with the right tags. You have to refresh it a certain amount of times. There's like all these different things that you have to do that we weren't really doing. So figuring that out, it took a little bit of time, but once we figured that out, it's kind of like a snowball effect when it comes to Etsy. Like if you get one sale, then you tend to get another one pretty soon after, because that means somebody's looking at your item. But our next thing that we're trying to do is we actually just purchased our own website, and we're going to start to become like our own thing. So we're not just relying on Etsy to be our sole income. We want people to be able to Google Birch and Belle, and then our website pulls up. So we are also only 2 years old, and we're learning every single day. Every single day is something new, what we want to try and where we want to go with it. So, as far as, I feel like we just only within the last couple months have really figured out where we belong on Etsy. And once we've mastered that, I think it's time for us to start going elsewhere and seeing, hey, can we bring in customers ourselves, and how is that going to look? How is that going to work? So.
Yeah. So think about having an e-commerce platform built into your own website as opposed to leaning on Etsy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that scare you to make that transition?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been on my to-do list every single day this month, and I just keep moving it to the next day's to-do list because I'm like, oh, I don't know. I feel like it's something that should be easy, but it really intimidates me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I will get around to it eventually, but looking at that and, figuring out how to do the shipping, and, Etsy just makes it so simple for you, but they take their share of it. So I'd like to not have to share that. So that's the driving force right there. But, it's definitely intimidating.
Yeah, I could see
get over the hump.
So what's the biggest challenge you've had as a business owner and kind of going down this journey over the past couple of years?
Well, I've had two different challenges. So my first challenge was when I was teaching. That one was when it came to balance and having enough energy to do everything. And I think that's really what pushed me into staying home, because like I said, I'd be giving so much of myself to my students, and with teaching, you don't just leave for the day and that's done. You bring home work. So I would teach all day, come home and play with my kids for 2 hours until they went to bed. And then I'd be up all night doing Birch and Belle and more teaching stuff. So getting burned out was a big struggle of mine. I felt like this is not worth it, but I didn't want to give it up because I loved it. And I loved both of them. So I was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do here. So once I made the step to be home fully, I think a new struggle has begun. And the new struggle is trying to figure out time management, because, some mornings I wake up and I have all this energy to design and do all this work. And I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm going to sit at the computer. And then Hannah or Hadley's like, let's go outside and go to the pool. And I'm like, okay. And then I have to reset my brain because I'm like, I am home for them. I'm not home for, Birch and Belle is the reason why I'm home, but they're the reason why I did this to begin with. So Birch and Belle just helps financially, and it is my passion, but my kids are my driving force, So if they want me to go outside on the playground, I'm doing it. But it's hard because I have to figure out, okay, when is it time to do laundry? When is it time to do business? When is it time to finish my coffee? There's so many things like that are just, trying to figure out the balance. But I feel lucky enough to say that is my only struggle as of right now. I would say a lot of people ask me how it works out with working with my family, and there has been absolutely zero humps. We work together so well. Our personalities could not fit better. None of us we've never fought about anything. It's just, I don't know, it's just seamless when it comes to that. So yeah, so I guess that's my main thing is time management.
You guys are pretty lucky in that regard. I could see a lot of families who are like, nope.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's, everybody is different in person. And that's what makes a family beautiful, right? Is that you have different personalities and different traits.
Definitely.
But it's awesome that you guys can be able to sort of transition that relationship a bit, you know what I mean? From family to business. And too,
Right.
you have nobody else that you can trust. And with your business, especially,
Exactly.
it's so hard to find people that you're like, but this is my baby. You know what I mean? And you don't want to give it up. It's
and
hard.
I still go through that a little bit, that part, because we're all in business together, they're all owners too, but it has just kind of become my baby, and they let that happen. They're like, okay, it's really Jen's business. So I call the shots when it comes to what goes on the website, and I'm in charge fully of social media, So I get that, but at the same point, I feel like because it's two men, they're okay with that. They're like, we'll do whatever you want. Like my dad's okay with being the workhorse. My brother's okay with just dealing with finances. And then the rest is me. So I feel very lucky when it comes to that, because I have 100% of the design and everything when it comes to business stuff, but I don't have to deal with the finances, because that for me would have been a struggle.
You and me both.
Yes.
You and me both.
Yes.
So I have two questions for you before we wrap up. And I think, I think the theme of this is kind of like Superwoman, because, I admire you so much, and that you have 2 little kids and you're able to run this business and you're able to stay on top of your fitness, and you have a phenomenal marriage. Shout out to Ian, who's just awesome.
He is
and
awesome.
belated happy birthday to him too.
Thank you.
But so 2 questions for you before we wrap up. But I'm curious about what makes you really excited about the future of Birch and Belle and where you see it going. And then secondly, what sort of legacy, I guess, do you want to leave for the girls as it relates to your business? Like, what do you want them to see, their mom be? I mean, if they kind of, and someone asked me this the other day and it was like, oh my gosh, but it was like, if your kids write your 75th birthday speech, like,
oh my gosh,
which is a really hard thing to think of. I was like, but seriously though, like, I mean, they're a driving force for so many things that you do. So I'm curious as far as like, what do you want them to see in their mom as you in this journey?
I really want them to see a well-balanced person. I feel like that's the most important because, things these days, like the mom boss thing and the woman boss thing is so big and blown up, and I love it. I feel like what a time for me to have 2 daughters growing up in this world, and I want them to see that it's possible. Anything's possible. I mean, I was a mom when I worked a 9-to-5 job, and now I'm a mom when I work at a work-at-home mom job. And I feel like I want them to see that both is possible. Whatever they feel like doing is possible. I only work 2 hours a day. I mean, and that's collectively between little bits and pieces here and there. And no, I'm not the richest woman in the world, but I'm fine, and I feel like I want them to know mom was present, mom was there, but mom was also a badass. Mom got work done. She did everything she needed to do. And I want them to see that. I want them to see that, women can do anything. And I feel like they do because Hannah, she's almost 6 and she totally gets it. I feel like she gets it. She'll say, oh, mom's doing work right now. It's really important. I'm like, that's right. My work is important. And I want her to know that too. I don't want them to think that I don't have time for them, but I also want them to know that work is important and time with them is important, so that mom is an important person. It's not daddy just goes to work and mom just stays home, because I mean, that's okay for some people too, but that's not what I want them to see. I want them to see mom and dad both work, but mom is home and mom does the dishes and does the laundry, and she also works and she also is here for us for homework. So I want them to think I'm a superwoman, like you said.
Yeah. And what gets you excited about what's coming down the pipeline for Birch and Belle? What can we look forward to?
Everything's exciting for me. I feel like every new product is exciting. The big picture for me is, first of all, is the website. That's our next biggest thing that we want to do. And something that I started to do, but then this whole COVID thing happened and it got in the way of it, is I want to reach out to wedding planners and event planners. And I want to really get involved with that because, you talked about focusing on your niche. And I really want that to be our number one niche, because we do some craft supplies here and there, and we do some random cute little things. And I love creating stuff like that, but I would love it to be, Birch and Belle event design, like us to be in all the weddings in Orlando, and we're the company people reach out to. And I feel like that's coming. I mean, I've made a lot of connections recently, and everyone's so excited when they see our stuff. And that's what I want. I want it to become like a name, a real name that people know in Orlando. So
that is so
I have a funny story. I was at the Y working out, and this girl came up to me and she's like, "You're the girl that makes the wooden signs, right?" And I was like, I've made it. I'm famous now. So I want more of that.
Mic drop.
That's it. My job is done, right? So yeah, more of that is what you have to look forward to.
That's a pretty great feeling though, isn't it?
It was cool.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And my gosh, but I've had someone come up to me at a coffee shop before and they're like, and I'm like, number one, you're either a stalker or I thought it was so strange. Honestly, I thought it was so
funny.
Weird. But it's like, as your business grows, it's just, and it's a great thing for that to happen as long as it's not a stalker. Right. And
right.
But I mean, those are things that come with business. And as you start, you have to be able to promote yourself. And especially for you, I think your girls have really milked the brand in a way, because they're sort of like the mascots of
they're totally part of it. They're the face of the business.
Exactly. I mean, if you talk about, when kids do modeling when they're younger, I mean, it's like that you couldn't have picked 2 cuter patooties to showcase your stuff. But I don't know if you've worked out any sort of royalties for them, like down the road in their college fund or anything.
Oh yeah, we've already discussed it. Seriously. I bribe her. Hannah gets bribed with candy right now. Hadley, she doesn't know. She's too young. I'm like, shh, just sit there.
So cute. Just sit there and look cute. It's easy to do. All you got to do is sit there. That's awesome. Well, Jenny, I am so proud of you and all that you've accomplished. And I mean, it's every time I go on social, I love to see everything that you guys are doing. And so Birch and Belle is the business. They make such beautiful things. And it's all over the place. I mean, again, every time I take a look, it's like you guys have something different and something new, and it's beautiful, and it's handmade, and just it's awesome. So so excited for you, and we'll definitely make sure that we share your info that way everybody can go just flood you with some orders, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, we're just so excited for you. So thank you so much for joining us today.
So much.
I know. I hope I get to see you soon. Hopefully our vacation won't be canceled in July, but
I'm praying, please.
I know. Hopefully.
Yes.
But thank you so much, and we will talk with you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Salud. Salud.